Hello and welcome everybody. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes to make sure everybody who's joining today can finish logging into this call. I think we're ready to go. Welcome to this East West Railway Company online public event for Oxford to Bicester. My name is Claire Keith Anderson and I'm Community Engagement Manager here at East West Railway Company. Following the launch of the second round of non-statutory consultation on the 31st of March, this week we're holding the first online event to run you through what we're consulting on in your area in more detail and address any initial questions you may have about our options and proposals. We are holding similar sessions throughout the whole route between Oxford and Cambridge throughout this week. We'll start this session with a presentation that will run for about 30 minutes, followed by a 25 to 30-minute Q&A before we wrap up with some next steps. We should be done by the hour. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce you to the rest of the team. Joining us today, we also have our Delivery Director for CS2, John Hillman, our Director of Construction, John Worthington, our Head of Environmental Impact, Michael Shanks, our Head of Customer Strategy, Martin Phillips, our Head of Operations, Maria Cliff, our Head of Programme Consents, Kirsty Young, our Development Manager, Stephen Barker, our Land and Property Manager, Jorn Pace, and Philip Alliston, Technical Director from Ardent, who work with us on land matters. Before we start the presentation, I'm going to run through a brief housekeeping and Teams Live note. Many of you might be familiar with Teams Live, but just as a reminder, you'll be on mute throughout. You will find in the bar below the Q&A feature where my colleague has just posted a message. Please use this feature to ask questions. You can send questions through at any time during the presentation, although we hope the slides already address some of your inquiries. In the Q&A section, we will aim to address the questions you've got so far on the consultation. Any questions we're not able to address or answer during the session, we'll take away and follow up via email afterwards. Please note that we are recording these sessions and therefore will not reference any names or descriptions, even if provided in the questions, for GDPR reasons. That's all the housekeeping done. So let's start with the presentation. So we're going to be talking to you today about our second non-statutory public consultation, and it's running from the 31st of March to the 9th of June. Next slide, please. What we'll cover today. We're going to look at an introduction to the consultation, what we're consulting on. We're going to have a Q&A session, look at how you can get involved and our next steps. Next slide, please. So what are we consulting on? This is a 10-week consultation and it is an opportunity for you to share your thoughts on the emerging proposals for East West Rail and your views on the broader scheme. The consultation document, which many of you will have received by now, a summary in the post, covers the following key sections: customer experience and railway operations, proposed infrastructure development for Oxford to Bicester, Bletchley and the Marstonvale line, Bedford, Clapham Green to the Eversdons, Halton to Hawkston, and the Shelfords to Cambridge Station. Next slide, please. So this map shows you the consultation zone, and it's the first time that EWR is consulting along the entire length of the route from Oxford over here through to Cambridge. Next slide, please. And so this slide gives the 60 different geographical locations that we are consulting on. So you've got here, Oxford to Bicester today, and then here you've got Bletchley and Marston Vale line. Here is Bedford. Here you've got the Clapham Green to the Evanstons. This section in blue is Halton to Hawkston, and there in green is the Shelford to Cambridge. Next slide, please. And at this point, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Maria Cliff. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks, Claire. Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Maria Cliff, and I am Head of Operations for East West Railway Company. And this morning, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the customer experience in railway operations part of the non-statutory consultation. This part of the document really focuses on getting real tangible feedback from the future customers of our railway and what they want from their railway experience. And we've asked several questions, but we're really keen to hear your views. Thank you. Next slide, please. So what are we consulting on? The railway operations and customer experience section is really important to us, and we are very open to all of the suggestions and all of the feedback that our future customers have to give to us. East West Railway Company at the moment is acting as a shadow operator, which means that we are taking on the responsibilities of designing and developing a railway for the future. We are looking at several areas, which you can see on the right of the screen there. The train service itself and delivery of the timetable. We really want to know about station experience and what we should be considering in terms of when our customers arrive, how our customers get to the station, what happens at the station, linking through to our on-train experience. We want to know about what type of interactions you expect with the colleagues that you encounter on East West Rail and where those interactions should be and what is important to you when you meet and speak to East West Rail staff. And finally, an area for opportunity, we think, for East West Rail is customer information and providing the right information at the right time throughout all of the stages of the customer's journey. So we want to be able to include suggestions and feedback in how we future design and develop this railway to make sure that it's fit for purpose, and we look forward to hearing your views. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Maria. Good morning all. My name's John Hillman. I'm the CS2 Delivery Director for East West Rail, responsible for the introduction of services between Oxford and Bedford. And I want to talk to you this morning a little bit about the proposals for changes that we're looking at along the route between Oxford and Bicester. So firstly, why do we need to do something? You know, the railway is not that old since it was renewed between Oxford and Bicester. Well, the reason is that capacity is extremely tight between Oxford and Bicester. And in order to introduce the East West Rail services through to Cambridge, we will need to create more capacity. But it's not just about squeezing trains onto the timetable and onto the railway. The more trains you have, the more unreliable they can be if capacity is tight. And it's very important to us that whilst introducing the services is key, equally making sure that those services are reliable for passengers is just as key, because without them, all of the promises of connections and connectivity are a little bit hollow. So some of the things I'm going to go through this morning are about ensuring that we provide that reliability in what we do as well. Next slide, please. And just for clarity, if people are seeking information about what I'm going to talk about this morning, it is section A of the consultation document, which can be found online on East West Rail website. So what are the developing plans that we're looking at the moment between Oxford and Bletchley? Well, they include changes at Oxford Station, and I'll talk about all of these changes in a bit more detail as we go through the slides. That could involve improvements to track, could involve changes to timetables, but at the moment we're at the early stages. Oxford Parkway Station, not been open that long, but already the car park at Oxford Parkway is struggling to cope with a number of vehicles, and we're going to introduce 4 trains an hour in each direction, additionally to what calls today, and therefore there's going to be a lot more passengers travelling through that station. So again, I'll go through the things that we're looking at to improve at Oxford Parkway. The same can be said at Bicester Village. Again, it's a heavily used station already, and again, with the additional East West Rail services, it will make a difference to the facilities provided and the experience that we're seeking to achieve. There's one other location that I'll talk about on here that isn't on this map, but is adjacent to Bicester Village Station, and that's the level crossing at London Road. So I'll talk about that in a little bit detail as well. Next slide, please. So Oxford Station, anybody that knows Oxford Station knows it's a heavily used station both by customers and rail services. It's a relatively constrained site in lots of ways. On the map that you've got there, it sort of indicates the areas that we're looking at the moment. And what I would say is we're undertaking work to develop the options at Oxford. There are no defined solutions on the table yet. It could be a mix of additional infrastructure, it could be a mix of timetabling work around the station and on the approaches. However, what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at additional tracks from Oxford North Junction, that's towards the top of the map where the blue line comes in to the existing railway where it says Jericho line, all the way into Oxford. We're looking at platform alterations or platform changes at Oxford Station, and that could include additional platforms with additional track work. And equally, we're also looking at the customer experience at Oxford. What does it mean when you add 4 more trains an hour into Oxford around passenger movement, around passenger information, around some of the things that Maria talked about earlier? And what do we need to do to make sure that experience is a good one? Next slide, please. So some of the things we're looking at the moment would include, as I said, additional platforms. There could be additional infrastructure both to the north or the south of Oxford Station in the way of additional tracks or changed track work in order to allow us to use station platforms more efficiently. Obviously, East West Rail will generate an increase in passenger numbers, and we're working through what that means for circulation and customer experience. And it could mean the addition of additional tracks to the north of Oxford to and from the Bicester main line in towards Oxford Station itself. Next slide. So Oxford Parkway, as I said, relatively new station. Passenger numbers have been much higher than predicted, and the existing car park is often full to capacity. So we're assessing the needs at Oxford Parkway. That could include additional car parking. It could include upgrades to the station capacity and the customer experience. Next slide, please. So what does that mean? Well, as I said, looking at parking facilities and whether or not there are options to extend those. And whilst we're doing that, we also need to consider the impact on the highways around the station and the way that people use the local highway to and from the station. But let's not forget, we're also looking at sustainable modes. So, what are the options around cycling, walking, riding? How do you get to the station? Have we got enough facilities for bicycles and elements like that? And what can we do to encourage that as well? This is not just about how we provide more facilities or more space for cars. It's about how we make the whole experience more sustainable. And again, as I said earlier, it's about trying to improve the customer experience or ensuring that the customer experience across the route for East West Rail customers is recognisable at all stations. Next slide, please. Again, the next station on the line is Bicester Village. Again, not very old, but passenger traffic through the station is significantly higher than was planned originally. And we're looking again at car parking facilities at the station and whether there are options to improve those. And again, sustainability question, more cycle space, more opportunity to be able to cycle to the station or walk to the station or use other sustainable modes. And again, we'll be looking at highway networks and once again, the station experience and the customer experience elements as part of that as well. Next slide, please. So the other area around Bicester is the London Road level crossing, and anybody that lives in the area may well know that for a number of years it's been hotly debated. The likely introduction of the East West Rail services could see barrier downtime of up to 50 minutes in the hour if nothing was done at the crossing. So we're investigating a number of options to improve access, and over the last, I'd say 15 years, there have been many studies undertaken in how to deal with this level crossing. So next slide, please. What we've done at the moment is we've taken the work that's been done to date, and we've sort of priced the options that people have looked at, and we've developed, or we've identified 6 key concepts that people have identified in the past, and we've evaluated those at a very high level. Those 6 concepts would see the level crossing close, and under concept 1, an accessible bridge for non-motorised users. So the crossing would be stopped up, an accessible overbridge provided, but there would be no facilitation for road traffic through that crossing. Concept 2 would see a road underpass, in effect in the same location, or more or less in the same location as the current road. Concept 3 would see a road bridge, again on the same alignment as the road. Concept 4 would see a road underpass alongside London Road, so somewhere in the adjacent area to where the current road alignment is, an underpass could be created, and the same for a road bridge. And the 6th option that's been looked at, or the 6th concept that's been looked at previously, is alternative road crossing locations that are not adjacent to the current road and are slightly away from the area. We have not got a preferred option. We actually haven't done an option study at this point in time, and in previous consultations with other stakeholders, we've had around about 6 or 7 other suggested alternatives that we can look at as well. So we have a long list of things that we are going to take forward into the option development, but this is to give you a flavour of the type of things that have been identified to date. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Kirsty, who deals with our land and property, to brief you on impacts for landowners. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Hi, I'm Kirsty Young. My role is the head of programme consents on East West Rail Company, and I also lead the land and property team. And one of our key roles is to really sort of talk and talk to and discuss our proposals with landowners that may potentially be affected, and look to support them through the process as we go forward. Some of our proposals for the new railway and for improvements to the existing railway may require land outside of the existing railway boundary, and we will be seeking a development consent order for our proposals, and development consent order will include compulsory purchase powers for land where that is required. But like all development consent orders and big consenting schemes like this, we view that as the last resort. Compulsory powers should be viewed as the last resort, and we'll be looking to talk to landowners to aim to get agreements as much as we possibly can. As John said there, our designs in this section really are a very early stage. You know, we're looking at concepts, we're looking at further sort of option development there. So we haven't really defined our land requirements in this area. So that we will be continuing to sort of work with potential stakeholders and other sort of potentially affected landowners as we develop our options and talk to them about what those may mean. Just recognising for any big infrastructure project that can have an effect on people's property, and it may affect through the course of the project as it develops. It may affect people seeking to sell their land or property if it affects the market value of their property. So now there is legal remedies out there called statutory blight. So people can, in certain circumstances, can serve a statutory blight notice on an infrastructure project like East West Rail. But that comes in quite late in the process when a development consent order has actually been submitted, which would probably be sort of round about 2022, sort of between 2022 and 2024 is our anticipated timescale for seeking that consent. So for owner-occupiers of residential property or for small businesses, under certain circumstances, they may be able to serve a statutory blight notice on an infrastructure project to seek to gain the market value for their property where they're looking to sell. But as I said, that is coming in statutory provision coming quite late. So East West Rail is currently consulting on a need to sell scheme, which would apply in similar circumstances for owner-occupiers that are in that position. But it is specific to East West Rail Company, and we are the two key ways that it differs from the legal provisions. One is that we would be looking to bring it in earlier, so potentially people that may be affected by our preferred options when we're consulting on those from statutory consultation onwards in this section could potentially be eligible for the scheme. We're also looking at applying it in a wider area because the legal provisions would only apply to what's known as the limits of the scheme, i.e. the bit within a red line sort of planning boundary. And we also recognise potentially there may be effects on properties that are outside of that area. So we are consulting on a scheme that would apply in those two ways. We've put forward our proposals, but really we're looking for people to tell us currently what they think of those proposals and what they think of the mitigation measures in place for property owners. So we are consulting on this at the same time. So up until the 9th of June, please let us know your comments, whether you think you'll be directly affected or you maybe just have an interest in feeding your comments back to us. Please let us know what you think of the scheme. You can find this and any other some other land and property materials on our dedicated webpage, Land and Property, which you can get to from our consultation page quite easily. You just click on the link for Land and Property or for the Need to Sell scheme and it will take you there. We do have a dedicated land team in place. Some of them are here on the call today to sort of help answer any questions we have. And we will be available at future public events and live chats. And really, if you have any questions in relating to land and property, please let us know and we'll try and get back to you as soon as we possibly can. In some cases, we have written to those landowners who are currently shown as being potentially affected by our proposals. But as I said, in this section we're looking at currently, there's very few landowners that are in that position because our options are still at such an early stage. But we will be the team that will continue to engage with those people as we go forward. I will now hand back over to Claire to carry on talking to you about the more general consultation.
Thanks very much, Kirsty. So, right, just wanted to give you more information about what we're doing. We are just really keen to hear from you about what you think about our proposals, and there are lots of different ways in which you can tell us. So today we're running this first session, and then in May there's going to be a more discursive session where we will look at themes such as potentially the environment, the impact of construction. So you'll have had a chance to read your documents, and then we'll have a greater chance to ask us about different themes whereas today is all about geography. So we've got on our website, on the consultation page, we have a consultation document and a technical report. There's also a summary consultation document, which I referred to earlier, and it has been sent to 270,000 addresses within the consultation zone. We've also got a community hub and a resource centre on our website, and yesterday our virtual consultation room opened. So because we are unfortunately not able to meet with you face to face at the moment, we are obviously consulting you online, and we have a virtual consultation room for each part of the consultation, the different 6 geographic sections. So please do go in, have a look. It's very interactive, it's easy to use, and yes, have a look for your section and obviously feedback to us. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. So as I said, there are lots of different ways because we are really, really keen to hear your views. So as I said before, the virtual consultation rooms opened yesterday, and they'll be open until the end of the consultation, which is on the 9th of June. And so, as I just said earlier, each consultation room is on a different section of the consultation, and it includes a full list of documents and maps available via the central table. So we are holding online public events such as this one, and they're going to be 2 lots of 6 covering the different geographical areas along the route, and we're also having 2 separate public events to ask you your views on customer experience in railway operations. Throughout the 10 weeks of the consultation, we're going to have live chat events. So a live chat event is where you can talk virtually to members of the project team and basically, again, have your questions answered. And even if you can't make any of those live chat events, and some of them in the evening, some of them on Saturdays, go to our website and you'll see the list of different chat events and public webinars. But even if you're not able to attend a live chat event, you can find the live chat event link in the virtual consultation room, and you can leave a message, we'll pick it up and then we'll get back to you. And also we understand that not everybody is online and not everybody is comfortable with the digital space, so we have a dedicated phone line for those people. And our telephone number is there. Thank you. Next slide, please. So we've come to the part of our meeting where we'd like to, I can see in the chat bar that lots of questions have come through, which is great. So could I hand over to you, James, and we can go through some answers to these questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Claire. Hi everyone, my name is James and I've been monitoring the Q&As that have been coming in. Thank you very much for sending them through. I think the first ones to pick up are questions from Nicholas with regard to the overall service. So the first question that's come through is it going to be 4 trains per hour from day 1? And I don't know whether Maria would like to answer that one.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, James. So the answer is yes, there will be 4 trains per hour from day 1, and that will be 2 trains per hour in each direction between Oxford and Milton Keynes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. And then another quick question from Nicholas was the Oxfordshire Rail Corridor study envisaged that trains will run from Didcot, Oxford to Bicester. Do you still favour that? I don't know whether, John, you'd want to answer that one.
Yeah, thanks, James. So the current arrangements are that East West Rail will operate, as Maria outlined, in the first stages between Oxford and Milton Keynes. And then when we get to configuration state or connection state 2, we'll be introducing 2 more trains from Oxford which go through to Bedford. And then once the railway is developed and built between Bedford and Cambridge, those services would be extended on to Cambridge. So that would be 4 trains an hour into Oxford. At this point in time, the East West Rail services are going to terminate at Oxford. We are in discussions with the industry about what the longer term solution might well be, and we are actively part of the Oxfordshire Corridor Study working group and other elements with Network Rail and key stakeholders. So there are some challenges around going to Didcot. Firstly, the infrastructure between Oxford and Didcot itself is actually not suitable at this point in time for the capacity that would be needed, and Didcot is not part of East West Rail's DCO or scheme or funding, so it isn't ruled out for the future. It is a consideration, but it's not a confirmed arrangement at the current time.
Thank you very much, John. And now we're moving on to questions, a number of questions that have specifically come in about the London Road level crossing. And John, I suspect these are for you as well. And I think these are about the 6 concepts that were up on screen earlier and that you talked through. And one point that's come in is about whether a pedestrian underpass is on the table or not, and if not, why not?
Okay, so just want to reiterate, we haven't done any option development here. What we've done is we've taken the previous studies that were done, the previous work by both the rail industry and the local authority and others, and we've said, what do these distill down to? And we've, as I said, we've developed that into those 6 concepts. In meetings we've already had with stakeholders, as I said, we've got several other suggestions on the table, and you're quite right, a pedestrian underpass is one of those that's already been raised, along with some other suggestions as well. So we are going to add all of the feedback into the option selection development work that we do. There are some challenges around an underpass in the area. There's the fact it would close the railway for longer than putting an overbridge in. There's an issue with quite a high water table in the area, which means that actually if you go under the railway, there's a good chance that you need to provide pumps to keep it dry, and there is an impact on surrounding properties. So we will include it in the option development work that we do, and we'll take it into account along with all of the other options. So thank you for that suggestion, and we will include that in the work we do. Just picking up on that, there was another point about cycling sort of away from the railway. We do have difficulties in including infrastructure elements that aren't directly related to the rail scheme in the DCO. So we will have to carry out traffic assessments as part of our options, and we will have to look at other sustainable elements as part of our options as well. So we will look at what people term sort of the first mile, last mile, or the cycling networks. The challenge will be that we will probably be more likely to have to work with the local authority going forward to be able to connect further cycle routes to the area. But we will look at that in more detail as we develop the options. Thanks.
Thank you very much, John. That's helpful. I don't know if there were any other questions or follow-up points from people who submitted questions on those specific issues to what John's just said. If there are, then please do put them in the chat and live Q&A, and we can address those. But otherwise, those are the key issues and questions that came up in the Q&A.
That's lovely. Thanks, James, and thanks everyone for your questions and for the team for answering those. So next slide, please. So how to respond to the consultation. So the consultation is running from the 31st of March to the 9th of June, and you can submit your feedback forms online by emailing us at consultation@eastwestrail.co.uk, or you can send them to us by post at Free Post East West Rail. If you would like a paper copy of the form, you can speak to any member of the team by emailing us at contact@eastwestrail.co.uk, or by calling us on the number there, 0330-134-00067. Next slide, please. So what's next? Well, we thank you again very much for attending today, and we really hope you found it useful. There is a lot of information out there for you to read on our website. You can also order hard copies of information on our website. So visit the virtual consultation room specific to your geographical location, and also join us at the next Oxford to Bicester public webinar in May, when we'll be talking about specific themes such as the environment and impact of construction. If you've got questions, come along to one of the 10 live chat events that we're holding. Again, all the details of all the events are on the consultation page of our website. And more than anything, make sure you please get your response to us to the consultation by June the 9th, because that's the closing date. So it leaves me to say thank you very, very much for coming today, and we hope to see you again. And again, thank you also for the team for your interest into the event. And goodness me, we've done a great time today. So
Claire, could I just interrupt? Sorry, given
please do.
It's James again from Questions.
We've got some more. Excellent.
We've had a couple of follow-ups around London roads, and I just wondered whether it was worth just very quickly addressing those, because I think some of it was answered, but there's some additional points that have come through. So if that's okay,
great idea. Please do. We've got plenty of time. Thank you.
Thank you. And if that's okay with you, John, as well, I think these would best be for you. So the first question is it possible for East West Rail to provide cycle links as part of the construction? If you could go into that, I know it was discussed earlier. And then the second question is, with regard to the pedestrian underpass, given it would only need to be 2.4 metres high, presumably the construction would be significantly easier than a road underpass or one for motor vehicles.
Yeah, so I'll take the second one first. I mean, a pedestrian underpass clearly won't be as big a construction activity as a road underpass. I absolutely accept that. However, there are other considerations. Any underpass under a live railway is going to close it for a period of time. And equally, it's not just about, if we're going to put an underpass under there for users with for walking, cycling, etc., it needs to be something that feels safe, that works well, that's well lit, that's part of the community that it's within. So we will include it in the options, as I said, and equally, all the assessments around impact assessments on equality and all the rest of it will be part of the option development that we need to go through. So we're at a very early stage, and that's why we've called them concepts, because clearly we haven't done the option development work yet and the assessments that sit behind them, but we will be doing that. And in the statutory consultation, we'll come back with all of that work evidenced, and hopefully be able then to point towards a preferred option based on all of that criteria. The other question was, is it possible to provide cycle links as part of East West Rail construction? So the East West Rail programme is in effect to deliver the service between Oxford and Bedford. It isn't a direct benefit for East West Rail to provide cycle routes that are off the railway network. We will do what we need to do in order to be able to provide an alternative at Bicester Level Road crossing, and we will work with the local authorities on cycle routes and other things or elements that are off the railway network. The DCO doesn't allow us to provide or include anything that isn't what one would call a core requirement of the scheme, but we will continue to work with local authorities to see how best we can address the first to last mile elements. And again, we'll be putting more information in the statutory consultation around that type of activity.
Thank you very much, John. Much appreciated. We have had some more questions in, if that's okay. One that's come in is around electrification. And the question is, has the Department of Transport vetoed electrification? And if yes, are you procuring new trains? And if yes, how powered? I don't know who in the team would, any volunteers from the East West Rail team to pick this answer up?
I can pick up the traction power question, and I'm sure Maria can talk about trains. So in respect of traction power, we are designing the railway at the moment to be potentially electrified. So we are providing passive provision within our design. The department at the moment haven't confirmed either way whether it's electrified or not. Therefore, we are designing with the provision for electrification included in the base design at this point in time. Once a decision has been made, then we'll be able to either continue in that vein or change that. One of the other key considerations around why we're in that position at the moment is that the department are very clear that alternative technologies are progressing rapidly. So battery technology or hydrogen technology are all progressing rapidly, and therefore it's a little bit of keeping the options open at the moment in order to be able to ensure that if emerging technology is sufficiently developed, that we could actually take advantage of that in a different way. So nothing is closed out. All the options are still on the table as far as we're concerned. And I'll pass over to Maria to talk about trains. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So not much to add. Thank you for that. Other than to say, you know, we are absolutely aiming to be a net carbon zero railway, and we absolutely want to retain full flexibility from a fleet perspective. In the short term, to enable us to get the railway up and running as soon as we possibly can for connection stage 1, we will be using self-powered trains, because there isn't electrification infrastructure on the full route for connection stage 1, but we are fully exploring all of the technologies, as John mentioned, as part of our long-term fleet strategy. So thanks, James.
Thank you very much, Maria, much appreciated. We've had another question come in with regard to equalities impact assessment, and whether there has been an equalities impact assessment yet of the London Road options. And I'd like to invite Michael Shanks from the team to answer this question, if that's okay, Michael.
Yeah, sure. Morning. Yeah, so just a fairly brief answer on it. So no, an equalities assessment hasn't yet been undertaken, but as part of the assessment process we go through, we will certainly be undertaking an equalities impact assessment. Clearly wanting to understand what the impact of the options are on different groups of people, and making sure that we consider all those various considerations in our sort of future work. So yes, it will be undertaken, but as yet, no, it hasn't.
Super, thank you very much, Michael. And that's all the questions that we've received.
Well, thank you again for your questions. Thank you for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at the next public webinar for Oxford to Bicester. And we'll say goodbye now. Thank you. Bye.